You're retro trekking with the Caramel Apples podcast, the apple snack that brings you a retro vibe, both crunchy and sweet, with your hosts Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee.
Okay, this week we have an interesting retro pop culture topic to discuss together. And we're so glad that you Orchard Archivers decided to jump in and join us this week. But take a minute to subscribe and to like and follow us on X, the Gram, TikTok. Find us on YouTube. And you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, and other great places to get your podcast fix. So again, we thank you for your continued support. Okay, so I was chit-chatting with the hubby the other day, and he's always trying to help us find things to talk about. Like, we're good, but
But we do know we want to, give a shout out to our male listeners. So it's nice when the hubbies will weigh in, right? Because it's like,
that's right.
well, let's talk about something they want to know or what they have an interest in.
Yes. And this one is, and I think our male listeners will really appreciate this one because, like, in retro pop culture, when you think of the 70s and 80s, a lot of the TV shows, cartoons, and movies always showcase different toys, different things that made the story, it drove the story forward and made it exciting. And we think about helicopters. So I was like, that's what he said. He goes, yeah, have you ever talked about famous helicopters? And I said, actually, no, but that's kind of cool. But who'd you have in mind? Because really, honestly, his thoughts were one of my favorite shows of all time in the 80s. You know, he wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I said,
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
So we'll get there in a minute. But yes, that was one of his absolute favorite shows. So when we get there,
Oh, she's gonna hold out on us, listeners. She's making us wait. Okay.
that's right.
Love it. Cool.
But helicopters, like, we also have special interest in it just, in recent months because we've had a couple of dear family members that actually benefited from the expediency of being able to get medical care by being airlifted, the medevac or whatever. So
Mm.
we're happy to report that our relatives are great, they're doing fine, they're thriving, but we have a special interest in helicopters anyway, but a renewed interest just from that tip. Like, we're like, oh wow, thank you. They were able to get our people there to get some help quickly. So they are useful, and that's what was portrayed in retro pop culture.
Yeah.
Because like, they were always in some kind of a heist or some kind of something very not nefarious, but it was always like mysterious, and
Yes. Well, and I think to your point, like anytime you have a gang of anything, there's usually motorcycles within that gang of whatever. If it's the bad guys, they normally have a helicopter or there's a private jet in there somewhere. So yes, the helicopter definitely has its place in any of these shows and topics and movies. Yeah, it lends to the, oh well, you've got money, you have a heliport or something like that, or
yes.
helipad, I think it's called. But yeah, so yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so let's jump into our discussion. This is going to be very, very fascinating. I found some information on the 1983 series called Simon and Simon.
Uh-huh.
And the fan of that show said briefly was talking about how they were watching it, and they said there's some great flying sequences toward the end of the show because they said they picked up watching it halfway through, but they said, yeah, they were flying with a helicopter and such. All these PI shows from the 80s had helicopters, it seems.
He's not wrong.
No, because you really can vaguely remember that. That's kind of cool. It did kind of
Yeah.
fit the era that we're talking about.
Yeah. There was another show, that mom liked a lot when we were growing up, and it was Matt Houston.
Matt Houston.
And I guess his show was the premise was he was kind of like a rich tycoon from Texas or something like that, and he spent his off time being a PI in I think he was in California. It was probably Los Angeles, because everything took place in Los Angeles if it was in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, if you were in California. And I guess he had, again, he was wealthy, so he had a helicopter in that as well.
That's right. So on that note, we can segue on over to maybe his doppelganger, which is a little more famous and exploded in pop culture in the mid 80s was Magnum PI.
Ah, Magnum PI. That's a good one.
Yeah. Now, they actually did showcase a regular helicopter in that one. I can't even think of his name, the guy that flew it. Like that was his buddy, his comrade, was it?
Not Higgins, right? It wasn't
No, he was the
Higgins.
butler. This was a man, I can't think of his name. But anyway, it was his helicopter and he was the pilot for it. So like he would come and rescue Magnum when he needed it, one of their mysteries going. Um I can't think of his name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I mean, it wasn't prepared, obviously.
Oh no.
That's what it is. So I won't linger on that. But anybody that was a fan of Magnum PI back in the 80s, they know who we're talking about. They see the scenes. It was just completely awesome.
So here's another one, and this will directly tie to another one on our list, but that is MacGyver.
Mm.
That show, I remember being very intrigued by that show when we were younger. Like, it's like, man, he gets out of all these situations. You're like, there's no way he's going to make it out, but he rigs something with a paperclip and he is good to go. Now, I guess there was obviously scenes with helicopters in them, but one in particular I believe mentioned was Blue Thunder, and Blue Thunder was also a movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Blue Thunder. Yep.
All
Yep. Had,
right, all right.
had Roy Scheider in it from Jaws. Yep.
Have you seen it?
Nope.
No? How about hubby? Has he seen it?
Yeah, he's the one that suggested it.
Hey, there you go.
You've seen it?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
I was like, I'm feeling a little embarrassed right now because I'm like,
No,
maybe
you're
I'm
in
the
good
only one on
company.
the planet that hasn't.
No, no, I haven't seen it yet either.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, another 80s show that he mentioned was I think they were detectives of some sort. Riptide.
I remember Riptide.
Yes,
Mom liked that one.
she did.
Yeah,
Um, she was all about any kind of eye candy, so that's probably really what it was. But she's like, "Oh yeah, and by the way, the mysteries were cool too."
yeah. Now,
Sure, mom.
I remember I remember one of the characters' name, I think, was Murray?
Yep, he was the nerd, I believe.
Okay, and there was, like, 3 of them, right? There were 3 guys that kinda ran around together,
Yeah,
but
I
they
think
definitely had a helicopter.
Joe Penny. I think he was in that. The dark hair, and then there was
Oh,
Perry King. I think he was the supposed to be the handsome
the
one.
blonde? Okay. I could kind of see them, but, like,
Mhm.
Murray's the only name that came to me as far as the character names.
Coop remembered the nerd,
Oops.
but the helicopter was named Screaming Mimi.
Screaming Mimi, I love it. She had a name. That is so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, Screaming Mimi.
Okay. Any idea what kind she was? What kind of helicopter she was?
Nope, there you lost me there.
I was like, man, we're on a roll. She's got some more information. That's cool. All right. All right. So here's another one. My hubby was a fan of this cartoon, and obviously he has the CD, or I'm sorry, the DVDs of it now. But this was Mask. The cartoon was called Mask. And again, there's always everybody's got these toys in cartoons as well. So there was a character, his name was Brad Turner, but his code name was Chopper. And
Okay.
he rode motorcycles as well, but he was the pilot for the helicopter in the cartoon. That's a fascinating cartoon too. It's very similar to like Transformers, G.I. Joe. Like there's kind of like a base storyline there. The good
Yes,
guys and then you got the bad guys, which was Venom.
always.
But yeah, that's an interesting cartoon. So we have
Yes.
a helicopter in that too.
So yeah, so actually the Hubs, my Hubs, he remembered the one in G.I. Joe.
Ah,
And he said it was based off of Cobra something. So he actually had the toy and the pilot too.
did he?
That's what he said. He goes, "Oh, I remember that. I wish I could find it, like some retro archives." I'm like, "Well, we can talk about it for you."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we
Yeah,
love
good
it
man.
when the hubbies weigh in on stuff, because that's a vivid memory for them, and we're always
Yeah,
talking from our side of it, but when we can bring in what they've done and experienced, it can also connect with another listener as well. So that's really, really cool.
that's right. Um,
Um,
he said, okay, so actually, there's a couple I don't know a whole lot about that he mentioned. One was called the Highwayman,
okay, that's not a familiar one.
and it had a setup kind of like with Knight Rider. It had a truck where it was a truck, and it had a helicopter that rode on the truck.
Oh, okay,
Like
cool.
like it was some kind of a neat combo, a duo with for whatever they had going, whatever they were set up for. But that was how this played out in this movie. And
Okay, okay.
and there's also one called The Interceptor from 1989.
That's a movie or that's a TV show?
It's a TV show, but it was kind of like
Okay.
an early version of reality.
Got you. All right.
So he was trying to tell me about that, but I'll have to ask him for specifics. But he said that I think he watched it a couple times and it was pretty good.
Awesome. Now here's one. MASH.
Oh, how can we forget
How can
MASH?
we forget MASH? Now, MASH isn't one I remember it coming on, the music always sounded like it was more of a serious type show,
Yes.
but, as we got older and we found out later that, oh, no, it was a comedy, but it made our list. They definitely had I think they had a medevac, didn't they? Their
Yeah.
their helicopter was for the medical side of things because it was an army show, right?
Yes.
And it was the
Yes.
medical side of the army.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, so pretty cool, pretty cool.
Yes. And that's how the credits start out. They throw up the yellow mash, but there was like a helicopter coming in, with the music,
Yes.
as you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah, that's solid memory right there. That's solid.
Yeah. Uh, Another one was Transformers.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second.
Let's talk about Transformers.
Yes.
Love it. W What else can you say but love it? Transformers was an awesome cartoon. We watched it, we tried to tune into it as often as we could, and, that might be kinda interesting because we are girls, but, we were tomboys quite a bit while we were growing up, so that was one definitely on our radar when we were growing up, so
That's right. 100%. We were, Tom. Now, I have a question, Coop. With Transformers,
Yeah,
there was one obviously, because like you said, you're talking about Gen 1 cartoon.
right.
Was the 2007 movie version, you know how the helicopter land on the military base and wreaked havoc? Was he a play off of what was originally in the Gen 1 Transformers cartoon? Because that I do not know.
That would be my guess.
Okay.
It would be my guess. I have not really researched that, but loved the '07 version of Transformers. Some
Yes,
people may debate us, but I feel like that was the one that touched closest to the cartoon, like
that's right.
100%. So,
Right.
we're always up for a debate, and if you disagree, okay, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but that one felt so Gen 1. Like,
It
love it.
did.
Yeah.
Well done, Coop. I agree. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so I would say that that was probably off of that cartoon, but we'll have to delve deeper into that one day.
Well, we're getting close to tying up our discussion, and our top one, the one the hubby wanted to get this all going. We'll get there in a minute. But I have a couple of rando. I got about three here
Okay.
to talk about real quick. And they're not really retro, but like they're still, you will find shows where they'll throw a helicopter doing its thing, here and there in certain movies and TV shows. But I thought about the one in Superman back in '78.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a
Where
good one.
where they were just getting ready to take off and cover some news story. Lois Lane was inside it, and
Mhm.
it hit something because a storm was coming in, and it knocked everything off, and it was circling the top of the building, and she fell out of the side and was only held in by her seatbelt, and
Yeah.
Superman swoops up and saves the day, and puts on a good show. But remember that one, good scene. And also, when we're speaking of the comics, we think of Batman, the old one and the new one, because in the old one, Batman had a helicopter.
Yes, he did.
Send down the shark repellent box. He was on the ladder hanging on the helicopter.
He was.
And then we have in the '89 Batman, we have the Joker's, his little clunky helicopter that actually took him out
Yes.
because Batman threw his little wire up there around his leg and he's hanging there goofing off, thinking he's making a clean escape. And oh no, Batman had other ideas for you.
That's right, because he connected that cord to, Gargoyle, right?
Yep.
And that's the weight that pulled him down. Yep,
Yep.
totally.
Okay. And then one more new one, like is Mr. John Dutton in his high rolling self, in Yellowstone, he had his own
Mm.
helicopter to take care of his cows
Yes, he does.
and his precious Montana property.
Yeah, that's a good show.
So yeah, John Dutton, and he is hashtag boss right there.
Capital letters.
Yes. So, and then there's one that people met their demise in Scarface of '83 when they went to Colombia. There, the guy, he thought he was going to get one over on the boss down there, the kingpin,
Mm,
and found out differently because he went out the side and the
yeah.
helicopter was responsible for that.
Kind of bleak, right? A bleak end, but things
little,
happen.
little bit.
You roll with
Little
these
bit.
high rollers sometimes.
Okay, so we have really enjoyed our discussion on this. We got the top one that we started this whole thing for. So this is for both of the hubby hubs on both sides and all you dear Mail Orchard archivers
Drum
that
roll,
have these.
please.
That's right. That have these warm memories, and that is.
Take it away.
Oh, you're let me do it.
I'm letting you do it.
Okay, it's Airwolf. Yes, when we talk about because Coop and I always talk about cartoons, we are always going back talking about better times and if they're around, this is one that comes up for him a lot. Like this is a good memory for him. He's like, Airwolf was the business.
Yeah. And it ran a little longer than I would have thought because I don't really remember the title. Do you remember Arrow at all?
I do
Okay.
vaguely, but like we have found it in a few places. It might have been like on a couple of the newer streaming channels
Got you. Okay.
that have a retro section or whatever. And I think we watched it. I respect it. It wasn't
Sure.
something I'd probably want to sit and watch like he would.
Mhm.
I'll put that out there. Like it's okay, and I like it because of the feel of it. It feels like a lot of the shows back then, so it
Yeah.
has a very nostalgic vibe.
Love that.
But I don't think I would sit and say, "Hey, you wanna pop in Airwolf? You wanna do that?"
So you're taking one for the team. That is wonderful of you.
I will do that for him, yeah, because I mean, it's nice to always spend time together with your buddies or your hubby, your spouse, whoever, your pet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, anything that you can capture in these times, the warm, fuzzy moments is great. So, yeah, what's the big deal? Get you a good snack and a nice warm blanket and enjoy, right?
That's right. Nothing but good times to be had there.
Yeah, so he could get on here one of these times, just talk all day long about Airwolf, but that was one of his top favorite programs of the 80s.
Oh, that is so awesome. Well, you know what? Just a real quick mention, helicopters were also in Miami Vice and A-Team.
Oh my god, how do we forget that?
I don't know, but, we've done our due diligence on, Miami Vice and soon to be A-Team, so, definitely will mention those again. But I love the idea. I love the fact that he was like, "Hey, how about this?" It's like, "Yep. Gotcha."
That's right, he gets a couple of cool points for
That's
this week.
right. Keep those ideas common.
That's right. So, you Orchard Archivers, do you have any fond memories of your favorite movies, retro pop culture TV shows, cartoons, or anything that highlighted or showcased something that just vividly blazes in your memory with helicopters or any kind of vehicles? But with for our discussion this week, helicopters or choppas, which sometimes they're called egg beaters, or my favorite, whirlywinds.
I like it.
No, no, whirly birds.
Whirlybirds. That's cool. That is
Yes.
so cool.
So weigh in on your favorite whirly bird and the pop. Cut that out. Hold on. So weigh in on your favorite whirly bird on your favorite retro pop culture entity. We'd love to hear what you got going.
And that's it for this week's Apple Snack. But as you know, there's always more where that came from. So stay tuned. Subscribe, leave us a shiny review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast. See you next time in the Retro Orchard, and thanks so much for listening.